The night before the college entrance exam, my childhood friend received a message from his girlfriend, claiming she was about to jump off a building to end her life. In a panic, he rushed out with a few classmates to save her. In my past life, I knew that the message about her suicide was a lie, so I strongly opposed his actions. I called the teacher, asking them to notify her parents to stop him from going. The next day, all the students went on to sit for the exam as usual, and they all passed and were accepted into Peking University. Afterwards, my childhood friend's girlfriend miraculously survived the fall, but she was left severely disabled. In a fit of rage, he sought revenge on me, severing my limbs and burying me alive. It's all your fault that Vanessa became a cripple. I'll kill you. All the classmates watched in horror as I died, cursing me as deserving of it. Then, hadn't fulfilled my session. I opened my eyes again, finding myself back on the night before my childhood friend rushed off to save his girlfriend. This time, I didn't try to stop them. I went to take the college entrance exam alone, no longer interfering with the fates of others. Linda, speak up. Have you seen Vanessa? I stared at Derek, who was drenched in sweat, frantic with worry. It took me a long time to snap out of my daze. I had been reborn. In my previous life, I knew that Vanessa didn't really want to commit suicide. She had only faked it to prove to me just how much Derek cared for her, that he would give up the exam for her. That's why I tried to stop them from going after her. But I never expected that it would result in such a gruesome end. Now, I looked at Derek and a few classmates behind him with an eerie calm. I haven't seen Vanessa. Derek frowned, his voice tight with urgency. She texted me, saying she's going to jump. We need to find her quickly. I nodded. Okay. You go. In this life, I would no longer interfere with their fate. Let them ruin their future. Just as I was about to close the door, Derek grabbed my hand and said, "Come with us to find her." I pulled my hand away. I'm not going. The exam is tomorrow, and I still need to study. Derek was displeased. We can find Vanessa and bring her back without delaying the exam tomorrow. Besides, we're all top students in the key class. We don't need to study. As long as we arrive on time for the exam, we'll get high marks. I shook my head. I said I'm not going. If you want to, go ahead. Derek snapped. Vanessa considers you a friend. How can you just ignore her? Even if you can't make it to the exam tomorrow, isn't Vanessa's life more important than that? Other classmates chimed in, angrily, having fulfilled my session. Exactly. Saving a life is more important than anything. How can you just watch Vanessa try to commit suicide and do nothing? Linda, you're so heartless. Vanessa was your classmate. How could you have changed so much? I think Linda is just jealous because Vanessa is prettier than her. I glanced at them. These people were all admirers of Vanessa. They knew she had a boyfriend, yet they still pursued her relentlessly. Before she dropped out of school, Vanessa had been known as a notorious troublemaker, smoking, fighting, hading fulfilled my sai, drinking, what out a low sai. You name it. When she later publicly announced she was dating Derek, it shocked the whole school, especially since Derek was famous for being a top student. Derek grabbed my hand again. Vanessa said in her message she wants to see you one last time. You have to come with us. He tried to drag me along. I grew frantic, gripping the door frame with all my strength. Vanessa was deliberately going off the radar. She wouldn't be found so easily. If I went with them, I'd never make it back in time for the exam tomorrow. I'm not going. Let go of me. You're going whether you like it or not. Derek ignored my protests, pulling me along with force. The other classmates swarmed around me, pushing me along. You still have the time to study when Vanessa is about to die? Who cares about the exam? Isn't Vanessa more important? If something happens to Vanessa, forget about the exam. I won't even want to live. My parents were both working late, and there was no one at home. The neighbors didn't come out either. I was shoved along by the group, almost stumbling as I went. I really don't know where Vanessa is. Dragging me around isn't going to help. Derek didn't believe me. You must know where she is. Come with us to find her. Having learned from the bloody lesson of the past life, I made a swift decision. If you keep this up, I'm calling the police. As soon as I reached for my phone, Derek snatched it away. He glared at me, shouting, "What police? Looks like all your studying has made you stupid. I'll give you back your phone once we find Vanessa." They dragged me around all night, looking for Vanessa, but she was nowhere to be found. Just then, Derek's phone vibrated. He looked down and shouted, "Vanessa is on the mountain. Let's hurry and save her." Vanessa had sent him a photo, showing the location on a mountain. Hearing about going up the mountain, I struggled even harder. But Derek held onto my hand tightly. I was forced to follow them up the mountain. By the time we reached halfway up, everyone was exhausted and wanted to rest before continuing. The weather was already hot, and I was drenched in sweat. Suddenly, my phone rang. I reached out to Derek. "It's my mom. Give me the phone." Derek snarled, snatching my phone and throwing it to the ground. "Linda, don't even think about calling your mom to come pick you up. I'm telling you, if we don't find Vanessa, I won't let you go back." Looking at the shattered screen of my phone, my heart sank. After all those years of studying hard, through my senior year when I barely slept, my parents worked overtime to support me so I could study. They'd worn themselves out just so I could succeed. Tomorrow's exam could not afford a single mistake. I could not let Derek ruin my life again. I had to find a way to get off the mountain. With that thought, I suddenly pushed Derek away. "I'm going down the mountain." "No. You won't. I won't let you go until we find Vanessa." Just as he finished speaking, the sky began to darken, and it looked like a storm was coming. A few classmates hesitated. "Maybe we should forget about looking for Vanessa. The weather is bad. What if it rains?" "Yeah. If the road gets slippery and we can't make it back down, we'll miss the exam." My mom just texted me, asking where I am and telling me to get some sleep. "Shouldn't we head back now?" Derek glared at me, then turned to the others. "Why are you panicking? We're all top students. The best of the best. Even if we're late, the proctors will let us in." I almost wanted to laugh at how foolish he was. The college entrance exam was nothing like the usual mock tests. No one, not even the top students, received any special treatment. Yet the students around me believed Derek's words without hesitation, nodding eagerly. "Exactly. Derek's a straight-A student. Even if he's late, the invigilators will make an exception for us." Yeah, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. We're all top students at this school. The exam won't start until everyone's here anyway. We're going to save someone. Once the school hears about it, they'll praise us for our bravery. What's there to be afraid of? I had just reminded them that the college entrance exam wasn't a game, when a memory from my past life struck me how they had stood by coldly, watching as Derek hacked off my limbs and buried me alive. Not one of them helped. They called me names instead, said I deserved it, said I should have died sooner. When the police investigated, they even gave Derek a false alibi. He walked away free. And because of that, my spirit wandered for years. Unable to rest, the thought alone filled me with unbearable pain. Now, seeing Derek trying to drag me up the mountain again, I yanked my hand free and stumbled back. My fingers closed around a shard of broken glass from the ground, pressing it hard against my neck. "Derek," I gritted out, "if you don't let me go down the mountain right now, I'll die right here in front of you." Blood beaded where the glass met my skin. Derek froze, dumbfounded. The others stared in shock before sneering with disdain. "Linda, don't you think you're overreacting? All we asked was for you to come help save Vanessa. Was that too much to ask? Do you even have a conscience? Is the exam all you care about? Is a human life worth nothing to you? It's only an hour's climb to the top. We'll rescue Vanessa, then head down and still make it to the exam in time." How naive they were. If it rained, the mountain path would turn slick and steep. There was no way they'd reach the summit in an hour, let alone get down safely. And once they got to the city, traffic would make it impossible to arrive on time. I looked straight at Derek. "Are you letting me go or not?" Realizing what was happening, he glared at me with disgust. "Linda, I can't believe you're this kind of person. Don't you dare tell anyone you're my classmate. You make me sick." His voice rose in anger. And he spat at me. I tried to dodge. But the spit landed on my uniform anyway. I wiped it off with a frown. The others picked up stones and hurled them at me. Someone as heartless as you doesn't deserve to get into Peking or Tingshui University. One stone grazed my cheek, drawing blood. I didn't lash out. My lips curved into a cold, silent smile. Just wait. When I get into Peking University, you'll be the ones crying. If you don't want to take the exam, that's your problem, I said firmly. But I will. Furious. Derek stormed up to me and shoved me hard. Then get lost. The push was so strong I lost my balance and tumbled backward down the mountain. Ah! I screamed as my body rolled uncontrollably until a tree trunk caught my waist and stopped my fall. Clinging to a branch, my lower body angling in the air, I realized my phone was smashed. It wouldn't turn on. I couldn't call my parents for help. Below me, there was nothing but darkness. Terror gripped me. Then, let out a low sigh. The skies opened up and rain poured down. It drenched me to the bone as I clung there through the night, trembling from exhaustion. My hands slick and shaking. How long could I hold on? Was I going to die here again? No, I refused to die. I bit down hard and held on. Time dragged painfully on. And despair began to sink in when suddenly, a familiar voice echoed through the storm. Linda! Where are you? Dad! Mom! Dad! Mom! I'm here! I shouted, my voice cracking. It's Linda. Quick! Get her up. Through the curtain of rain, I saw their blurred figures above me. Dad pulled a rope from his backpack and tossed it down. I grabbed it tightly, and with all their strength, my parents hauled me to safety. I was covered in cuts and bruises. But I didn't stop to rest. We hurried down the mountain together. In the car, Mom handed me a towel and my school bag. I dried myself while quickly explaining what had happened. She finally understood. No wonder Derek's parents were losing their minds looking for him. And some of your classmates' parents called too, asking if you'd seen them. Just then, Mom's phone rang. It was my teacher. I answered. Teacher, I'm on my way to the exam center now. Good, a dud, the teacher replied. Then asked, by the way, have you seen Derek and the others? Derek took a few boys from our class up the mountain to find Vanessa. I don't think they've come down yet. The teacher nearly fainted on the spot. The exam's about to start and they're still climbing a mountain? Ridiculous. She rushed off to contact their parents. I didn't bother saying more. Derek and the others were doomed to miss the exam. They'd have plenty of time to regret it later. Dad sped all the way to the city. But traffic was heavy. My heart was in my throat the entire time. Terrified we'd be late. Thankfully, we reached the exam center with just 2 minutes to spare. When I finally sat down in the classroom, a wave of relief washed over me. The morning exam went smoothly. After lunch, I was reviewing my notes when loud voices rose near the school gate. Curious, I went to take a look. A crowd had gathered. There stood Derek and his group covered in mud, looking utterly miserable. They must have just come down from the mountain. They were shouting angrily at the security guard. Who do you think you are to stop us? We're top students from the honors class. We were saving someone. We didn't mean to be late. Let us in so we can retake the exam right now. I watched them go red-eyed with fury and let out a cold laugh. Did they think the school belonged to them? That they could do as they pleased? They were already late that morning and still demanding a retake. Ridiculous. Of course the security guards wouldn't let them in. They were making a scene. Nobody was going to bail them out for that. I pulled my gaze away, found a seat, and went back to drilling practice questions. When the afternoon exam was over, I packed my things to go home and was stopped by a scream. Derek. Listen to your mother. Put the knife down. I turned. Derek was holding a sharp blade to his own throat. If they don't give us a makeup exam, I'll die right here. I snorted. He wanted to force me with threats of suicide? His behavior surprised me not at all. In my last life I knew how reckless he could be. He'd do anything to get what he wanted. It was the first day of the college entrance exam and a crowd had gathered by the gate, reporters among them. At the sight of Derek's extreme act they immediately aimed their phones at him. The boys who'd gone up the mountain with Derek, inflamed and hyped by the moment, began copying him with threats of their own. "We've worked 3 years for today and eyeing us a retake is asking for our lives. Do you know how brutal senior year is? To miss the exam because of lateness, who could accept that? The Gaokao can't go on without us. Arrange a retake or we'll die at the school gate. Let's see how you hold the exam tomorrow." Their demand was obvious, they wanted a do-over. I raised an eyebrow. Last night, they'd all insisted Vanessa mattered more than the exam. Now they suddenly remembered how important the test was. Too little. Too late. I didn't believe they actually intended to kill themselves. It was pure theater. The principal and teachers worked to calm them. "Don't do anything foolish. Calm down. If you hadn't run up the mountain last night, you wouldn't have missed today's exam." Derek held his throat stiffly. Indignant. "We didn't go up there for fun, we went to save Vanessa. She wanted to kill herself. How could we ignore that? That's a human life. We couldn't just stand by." The boys behind him echoed, shouting, "Exactly, we went to save someone. The school should make an exception and give us a retake. 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 Let us retake." Their uproar put the teachers and principal in a bind. But Vanessa never tried to kill herself, and she wasn't on the mountain. "You all made a spectacle of yourselves last night. It was a farce. Not a rescue. We can't arrange retests for that." Nearby parents muttered, "There wasn't anyone up on that mountain. Who runs up there in the middle of the night if not idiots?" Thinking the Gaokao is negotiable and demanding a retake is unfair to the students who got to the exam on time. Right, acting like threats will work is childish. Derek's face went pale under their rebukes. When they'd reached the mountaintop the night before, there had indeed been no sign of Vanessa. They'd only managed a hasty descent and tried to rush back for the exam. But the rain had been heavy and they had no umbrellas. Slipping on the slick path, they fell several times and nearly tumbled down a cliff. Only their parents' timely arrival spared them. He knew perfectly well Vanessa hadn't been there that route and any claim they'd been rescuers, but he couldn't accept missing the exam. When my parents' car pulled up and I moved to get in, Derek called out, "Linda, you're not allowed to leave." He turned to the crowd. "Actually, Linda told me Vanessa was going to kill herself and sent me to find her." I'd known Derek wouldn't let this drop. I hadn't expected him to smear me so blatantly. To pin all the blame on me. The boys behind him leapt in to save their own skins by throwing dirt my way. If Linda hadn't said Vanessa would kill herself, we wouldn't have gone up the mountain in the middle of the night. She tricked us there. Why should she be allowed to take the exam and we can't? It's all Linda's fault. She made us miss the Gaokao. She should take responsibility. Linda did this on purpose. She doesn't want us to take the exam. She's afraid we'll score better than her. We strongly protest. Cancel her exam results." I gave a bitter laugh. Ungrateful wolves in another life. And the nature of people doesn't change. What a bunch of fools. Derek looked at me triumphantly. As if to say, "You dared defy me. And I'll make you pay if I'm going down." "We're all going down." The crowd instantly turned on me, raining insults until I was lambasted like a criminal. Such scheming at her age, who knows what she'll be like when she grows up? Someone like that doesn't deserve to sit the Gaokao. Doesn't she understand how important the exam is? Luring classmates up the mountain is despicable. Her results must be voided. Derek's mother, eyes blazing, grabbed an umbrella and lunged at me. "You little bitch, you ruined our Derek on purpose. Made him miss the exam. I'll not let this go." She swung at me. My father immediately shoved me behind him. "No one harms my daughter. I believe her. She wouldn't have tricked classmates into going up a mountain." Derek snorted coldly. "Your daughter's jealous of Vanessa because Vanessa likes me, and she doesn't." My father snapped. "You're lying. My daughter's not like that." My mother looked at Derek with contempt. "My daughter looks down on you." Derek's face flushed a mix of red and white as he raised his voice. "I'm not making things up. Linda even wrote me a love letter. Everyone in class can testify." He nudged the boy beside him, who quickly caught on and nodded. "Yeah. Linda's been crushing on Derek. I even saw the love letter she wrote. Derek didn't choose her. So now she's trying to get revenge." Derek pulled a folded letter from his backpack and spread it open for everyone to see. My name was indeed written on it. "See? This is the love letter Linda wrote me. But I had never written a love letter to anyone, let alone to Derek. Sure. He was my childhood friend. And he was good looking. Plenty of girls at school had a crush on him. But I never felt anything for him. From beginning to end. The only thing in my heart had ever been studying. Still. I could tell they'd gone to great lengths to frame me faking my handwriting. Fabricating a letter just to ruin my exam and my future. My mother opened her mouth to argue. But I gently patted her hand. Mom. It's fine. Then I turned to face Derek and his crowd, calm and unflinching. Fortunately, I had anticipated something like this. During the lunch break, I had asked my parents to retrieve the surveillance footage from outside our house, and now it was finally time to use it. I turned up the volume on my phone and held it high for everyone to hear. Let's go find Vanessa and bring her back. It won't delay the college entrance exam tomorrow. We're all top students from the honors class. Why keep studying? As long as we show up tomorrow, we'll ace it. What's the exam compared to Vanessa? If anything happens to her, I wouldn't even want to lie anymore. In the video, I repeatedly said I didn't want to go, that I wanted to stay home and study. But they ignored me completely, dragging me up the mountain against my will. The footage was undeniable proof. The crowd fell silent in an instant. Derek's face turned ashen. Those who had been condemning me seconds ago suddenly had nothing to say. They hadn't expected I would come prepared with evidence. I let out a cold laugh. Did you really think I'd let you slander me that easily? I said it again and again. You could go look for Vanessa if you wanted. But you forced me to go with you. Climbing a mountain in the middle of the night. I pointed to the faint scar on my neck. If I hadn't threatened you with a shard of glass halfway up, you still wouldn't have let me go. To you, maybe the exam means nothing. But to me, it means everything. I can't afford even one mistake. And now, even after all that, you're still trying to drag me down with you? Do you even have a conscience? I snatched the so-called love letter from Derek's hand. This letter isn't mine. Anyone can see the handwriting's different. Check it if you don't believe me. And even if I were to like someone, it would never be you. Derek, you may have good grades, but you've got no sense. Your head's full of nothing but romance. I'd never fall for someone like you. At that, Derek's father slapped him hard across the face. You missed the college entrance exam because you ran off into the mountains for a girl. And now you have the gall to slander someone else? I ought to beat some sense into you. The scene erupted into chaos. Derek held his cheek, glaring at me with hatred. Linda, you knew Vanessa wasn't on that mountain, didn't you? He wasn't wrong about that. I had been reborn. I knew Vanessa and never intended to kill herself. It was all a farce to toy with them. So what if I did? You wouldn't have believed me anyway. Derek's teeth clenched. You didn't say how you knew. If you'd told us Vanessa wasn't there, we would have gone down with you. We wouldn't have been late. We could have taken the exam. So this is all your fault. Don't pretend you're innocent. Moral blackmail again. Typical Derek. I wasn't falling for it this time. Whether or not you took the exam is your problem. It has nothing to do with me. Derek fell silent. His lies laid bare for everyone to see. He didn't argue again. And the boys who had backed him slunk away, heads hanging. The farce was finally over. The next day, I sat for the exam as planned. When I stepped out of the hall afterward and looked up at the sky, I couldn't help but smile of pure relief. If fate had shifted even slightly, I might never have had the chance to change my life. Later, our teacher told us Derek's parents wanted him to repeat the year. After all, he was a top student. With one more chance, he'd probably still score well. But I didn't care anymore. Everyone has their own destiny. I was done interfering in others' lives at the cost of my own. After the exams, I stayed home to rest. When the results were finally released, my hands trembled as I held my phone. Tears streamed down my face. Mom, Dottie got into Peking University. I hadn't let them down. I could finally hold my head high. My mother hugged me tightly, eyes red with tears. My daughter is the best. My father's grin stretched from ear to ear. Linda, you're the pride of our family. I nodded hard, crying freely. When I returned to school later, I saw Derek and his parents arguing on the playground. I'm not repeating the year. Derek shouted. Everyone will know that refusing to let me retake the exam was their loss. His mother snapped. Have you lost your mind? What else can you even do if you don't study? I'm done studying. Derek roared. I'm going to work, make money, and marry Vanessa. His father's palm cracked across his face again. Say that woman's name one more time. Derek's eyes burned red with defiance. I've told you already, Vanessa is the one I've chosen. I'll be with her for the rest of my life, whether you like it or not. His mother clutched her chest, gasping, and fainted. Mom, Derek cried out. In the end, Derek's father took him to the hospital for emergency treatment. Saying it was a heart attack, Derek turned to look at me. His fists clenched. Are you satisfied now? Seeing my family like this? Linda, you're the one who ruined me. You'll get your comeuppance. Before I could say anything, my friend shot back. Derek, are you out of your mind? You almost made Linda miss the cow, and now you're trying to bite back. The only one who'll get retribution is you. Derek showed no sign of remorse. If Linda hadn't been involved, how would Vanessa's message even mention her? Then you should ask Vanessa why she dragged Linda into this. Derek sneered. Linda, stop playing innocent. You're no angel. I looked at him coldly. Derek, who I am doesn't need your judgment. And you're not qualified to give it. Missing the cow is your own fault. Getting manipulated by Vanessa like a fool. Derek pointed at me, blaming me. That night on the mountain. If you hadn't forced me to come down with you, we wouldn't have missed the exam. I looked at his face, remembering how he'd severed my limbs and buried me alive in the last life, not even sparing me after I begged. After my death, he dug out my organs and fed them to wild wolves. Even though it was from a past life, the thought of those images still left a chill in my heart. Why should I have forced you down? I had no obligation. You became what you are today because you brought it on yourself. You deserve it. With that, I turned and walked away with my friend. Derek's father enrolled him for a retake, but Derek refused to cooperate. I'm willing to go back to school. He even ran away from home to live with Vanessa and refused to return. Derek's father went to find him and saw him living with Vanessa in a rented room, smoking, drinking, wadaba lo sai, and making threats about cutting ties. Despite that, Derek wouldn't turn back. I knew Derek's life was destined for ruin. In my past life, he destroyed me. And now, in this life, he was ruining himself. It was only fair. Afterward, I found a part-time job, wanting to save up some money for college and lessen the burden on my parents. They'd sacrificed so much for me. And now that I was older, I wanted to help them live a bit easier. One day, while working at the restaurant, I saw Vanessa with a group of men, eating and drinking. But Derek wasn't there. Vanessa, compared to before, looked more mature and seductive. She wore a tank top and shorts, exposing several tattoos on her skin. One of the men had his arm around Amisa and kissed her openly. The posture intimate. As far as I knew, Vanessa and Derek were still together, though he had no idea the woman he defended had secretly cheated on him more times than he could count. I had once seen her fooling around with another boy in the classroom. So when I heard she was planning to kill herself, it made sense why those boys followed Derek to search for her. I didn't want to get involved, so I quietly put on a mask and stepped back. But Vanessa spotted me. She called me over and asked to add more dishes. I steadied myself and walked over. Vanessa splashed the wine on my face. Linda, do you know how much I hate you? Always pretending to be the good girl? I wiped my face with a few tissues. I don't know what you're talking about. I turned to leave. Vanessa, enraged that I ignored her, signaled for the men to drag me out. My face went pale with fear. Don't touch me. I backed away, but they grabbed my arm and covered my mouth, pulling me outside. The other employees were busy and didn't notice me being dragged away. Once we were in the alley outside, Vanessa slapped my face hard. Take her clothes off. I want to take a set of photos to show everyone. I stared at her wide-eyed, terrified. Don't do this. I couldn't understand why Vanessa harbored such intense hostility toward me. Suddenly, memories from sophomore year resurfaced. Back then, Vanessa hadn't dropped out of school, and Derek and I were desk mates, both among the top students in the school. Our teacher often praised us, and the other students joked that we were a perfect pair. Derek seemed to like me too, sometimes bringing me breakfast or snacks. Vanessa liked Derek and saw me as a rival. Even though I had repeatedly told her I wasn't interested in Derek and just wanted to focus on my studies, she didn't believe me and kept picking fights. I ignored her. After I entered senior year, Vanessa dropped out of school and soon started dating Derek. Even though Derek and I had no romantic involvement, Vanessa still couldn't stand me and made things difficult for me. Now, Vanessa crouched in front of me and slapped my face again. "Linda, you'll learn the consequences of crossing me." I snapped back. "When have I ever crossed you? Don't think I don't know you like Derek. Trying to fight me for a man will only lead to your downfall." I shook my head. "I don't like him. I swear. I don't. I don't believe you. When your nudes are all over the place. Let's see if you still have the face to like him." Vanessa stood up, raised her phone, and glared at me viciously. "Take off her clothes." The men lunged at me, tearing at my clothes. "Damn," let out a low sigh. "Her body's not bad at all. Once we get her clothes off, we'll do whatever we want." A wave of fear enveloped me, my body trembling, hands gripping the collar tightly, tears falling down my cheeks. "Don't touch me. Get away from me." Just then, let out a low sigh. The manager and a few colleagues rushed over. "Stop. I've called the police." Hearing this, the group let go of me. Vanessa shot me one last glare and hurriedly left with them. The manager and my colleagues helped me up. "Linda, are you all right?" Tears streamed down my face as I said, "It's fine. I'm just glad you arrived in time." "Thank you." I didn't dare imagine what might have happened if my manager and the others hadn't shown up when they did. On the way back to the restaurant, my body was still trembling. After work, afraid that Vanessa might be waiting outside with her gang, I called my father to come pick me up. He was deeply worried when he found out and started coming every evening to drive me home after work. Then came the day I received my admission letter from Peking University. I was overjoyed. In this new life, I had changed my fate and finally gotten into the university I had always dreamed of. Later, during a chat with some classmates, I learned that Derek had fallen into a vegetative state. It turned out that after discovering Vanessa's suicide had been faked and that she had cheated on him several times behind his back, they had a huge fight. In a fit of rage, Derek slapped her across the face. Enraged, Vanessa sought revenge by gathering a group of thugs to attack him. Derek was beaten so badly he was left on the brink of death and ultimately became a vegetable. Vanessa tried to hide, but she couldn't escape. The police eventually caught her, along with the gang members involved. I, meanwhile, kept myself busy working part-time jobs and managed to save a small amount of money. When the new semester began, my parents accompanied me to campus. Looking at the vibrant, youthful faces around me, my heart swelled with excitement. As if I could already see the bright, hopeful future waiting ahead. The junior who had a secret crush on Seal caused me to lose my sight. But she knelt at my hospital bedside, begging me to sign a letter of forgiveness and swearing a vow of lifelong devotion. In the end, though, she tangled herself with that junior on our marriage bed, and on the 7th day after my father's death, she pushed me off the rooftop with her own hands. Heartbroken, I asked her why she had done this to me. She merely said, "Arden, I owe you nothing." When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn back to my 3rd year of university. Inside the karaoke bar, Seal stood humbly before me, holding a tray of drinks. This time, I wouldn't be the self-sacrificing hero I once was. Instead, I watched coldly as she was humiliated. "If someone wants to play the fool, let them. Not me. Sir, your drinks have arrived." Her familiar voice startled me. Back then, Seal still spoke with a hint of youthful naivety. I didn't say a word. She nervously twisted her fingers, her body slightly trembling, a flicker of unease and stubbornness in her eyes. "Arden," she said, "if you're here just to laugh at me, then please leave. I still have to work." The atmosphere in the private room instantly froze. My buddy Rook tried to ease the tension, but I stopped him with a hand. I looked toward the source of the voice, pretending to glance at her name badge. What? You're serving drinks now, having fulfilled my obsession, and still think your job is beneath you? I withdrew my gaze inferiorly. Your attitude is a problem. You clearly don't understand how to respect customers. I want someone else. Seal stood frozen. In her memory, Arden should have always been the one who catered to her every whim. The Arden she remembered would never speak to her in such a cold, superior tone. I leaned lazily against the sofa and said coldly, "Get out." Her fingers trembled on the tray. She bit her lip, humiliated beyond words, and turned to leave. Once she was gone, Rook leaned in and whispered, "What's gotten into you today? Before we came, weren't you all outraged on her behalf, saying her hands were meant to sculpt masterpieces? Not serve drinks in a place like this? Why the sudden change?" I rubbed my temples and sighed deeply. Then I gave a bitter smile. "She's not worth it." Rook patted my shoulder, looking comforted. "Finally figured it out. Took you long enough." Just then, the door to the private room was flung open. "Let me in. Don't stop me." Blaze barged in, red-eyed and furious. "Arden, how could you treat Seal like that? She's so proud and strong, how could you humiliate her like this?" Rook frowned. "Who the hell are you?" Blaze let out a cold laugh. "You rich young masters would never understand how hard things have been for Seal and me. You leech off your parents while we earn every cent ourselves. What's shameful about that? Honestly, you people should be the ones feeling ashamed." Blaze Seals Jr. Such a righteous speech. How noble. That indomitable spirit he had was exactly what Seal admired most. After we married, whenever she mentioned him, her eyes sparkled. She'd say Blaze was like a pine tree growing from the ruins. Nothing like the blind, broken me someone from an entirely different world. Hearing the rustle of his uniform reminded me when Seal started working at the KDV. Blaze quit his convenience store job the very next day and applied to work here too. I let out a mocking smile in his direction. What a coincidence. That rich kid you're mocking? He owns this place. And as of now you're fired. You. Blaze's face twisted with disbelief, a flicker of panic in his eyes. Seal rushed in. Seeing him, Blaze's eyes turned red again. "Senior, I just couldn't stand Arden treating you like that. I didn't mean to make him angry." Seal stepped in front of Blaze and said softly, "If you have a problem, take it up with me. Don't make things hard for him." I sneered. "Chatting during work hours? You think this company is your living room?" I tilted my head slightly in her direction. "Talk to you? You think you're even worth it? Both of you pack up your things and get out. Got it?" I had pursued Seal with everything I had for 2 full years. She was a sculpting prodigy at the Art Academy, her hands graceful and powerful. Even a lump of clay gained a soul in her touch. She sculpted, and I painted. We were hailed as the most talented and compatible pair on campus. The artistic path is never easy. In our 3rd year, Seal's family finances deteriorated. To stay in school, she reluctantly accepted my affection. I was so overjoyed. I failed to notice the hidden bitterness and humiliation in her eyes. From then on, I covered all her expenses. We got engaged upon graduation. But on the day of our wedding, Blaze pushed me into traffic, leaving me blind. Seal rushed to the hospital, weeping as she knelt at my bedside. "Arden, I will marry you. But Blaze is still young, and he's about to compete in the National Art Contest. Can we just let this go?" I lay there, groping for the eyes I could no longer see through, choking out the words. "But Seal, I'm a painter too." She gripped my hand tightly, her tears falling onto it. "Please, Arden, let him go. I beg you." She knew that national exhibition was my life's dream. We were just one step away. After I was discharged, my world was forever dark. I could never paint again. Despite all her efforts, Seal couldn't clear Blaze's name. After that, she stayed by my side constantly, crying and blaming herself, saying she had ruined me. For a long time, she never mentioned Blaze. I thought she had let go of the past. "Arden, I'll take good care of you. Trust me." Seal stared at me with tear-filled eyes. I could no longer see her face. But I nodded, eyes wet. The wedding went on as planned. Everything was perfect. At first, she treated me well until the day Blaze showed up again. The moment I heard his voice, my whole body shook with fury. "You're supposed to be in prison. How are you even here?" Blaze looked down at me smugly, placing my paints and brushes on the table. With a mocking tone, he said, "Senior, you left these behind. I thought I'd return them to you." He sneered coldly at my blind eyes. "But now, you probably won't need them anymore." I pounced toward the sound like a trapped animal, screaming hysterically, "Why are you here? Get out!" Blaze easily dodged, watching with interest as I stumbled in the dark. He said disapprovingly, "The only reason I'm standing here unharmed is thanks to your dear father." The words struck me like a thunderbolt. Seal happened to return at that moment. She furrowed her brows as she glanced at Blaze, then hurried over to help me. I gripped her sleeve tightly, pointing in the direction of the voice. "He escaped from prison on his own. Call the police and arrest him." Seal sighed lightly, saying, "Arden. He was legally released." Her calm tone broke me completely. I shoved her away and punched the wall, the pain from my fractured knuckles snapping me back to reality. That day, in my rage, I smashed a mirror, the wound on my hand deep enough to expose bone. It was then that I learned the truth. When my father saw me so depressed and worried that I might do something reckless, he turned to Seal, who was the only one able to help me recover. I became deeply dependent on her. Seal went to my father and promised to marry me and take care of me for life, in exchange for Blaze's release, with no record left behind. My father, having only one son, couldn't bring himself to refuse. Blaze returned to school. His 3 months of disappearance were covered up as a study trip abroad. He was soon awarded multiple honors and became a rising art star in everyone's eyes. Upon learning the truth, I nearly collapsed. Seal became even more gentle and caring toward me, allowing me to vent my emotions. Gradually, happily, I began to feel guilty, thinking I owed Seal. I nervously tried to please her. Blaze also disappeared from sight. In the 3rd year of our marriage, Seal had fully taken over the family business, and my father was hospitalized due to a stroke from overwork. I couldn't even visit him. That night, they celebrated Seal's takeover of the company, partying into the early hours. In the end, it was Blaze who brought her home. I sat in the dim living room, listening to my wife and enemy chatting intimately. Seal staggered over to me, drunkenly patting my head. "Arden, it's so late. Blaze isn't safe alone. Let him stay tonight." With that, she looped her arm around Blaze and went into the bedroom. A door shut, isolating me. Inside, there was the sweet scent of intimacy, while outside, only loneliness. News of my refusal to flatter Seal spread through the school. The forums erupted, full of related discussions. Passersby were making bets. "I bet Arden's just pretending to let go. There's no way he'd give up on Seal after chasing her for so long." User 2, "Look at this big shot. Arden is good looking, comes from a distinguished family, and is talented in many ways, while Seal is just a typical gold digger. It's a shame he couldn't see that before." User 3, "Exactly. I agree. Blaze, you're free. Go practice your craft. Anyone can see that Seal has no interest in Arden. He's practically begging for rejection. Isn't that just self-inflicted humiliation?" The comment section exploded. Blaze managed to hold his ground in the online battle, his verbal fencing sharp. I was staring at my phone screen when suddenly, a shadow loomed over me. Looking up, I saw Seal glaring coldly down at me. "Got time for a chat?" I grabbed my bag, about to leave, unwilling to even glance at her. The mere thought of her face made me feel nauseous. "Arden." Seal followed closely behind. When I picked up my pace, she stopped and, with an icy voice, threat, and, "Arden, do you know what happens if you push me too far?" I trembled all over. Those words, the same as when Seal betrayed me after our marriage. The excruciating pain from that brushstroke to my eyes resurfaced, sweeping through my body, making me shiver. I slowly turned, And there she stood, as if frozen in time. Her eyes, no longer gentle and caring, now held a chilling arrogance. She closed the distance, stopping just an arm's length from me. Like someone calling for their possession, she arrogantly stretched out her hand. Come here. I froze in place, watching the baleful smile tug at her lips. After a long moment, I stood up straight and defiantly stepped back. Looking at Seal's shocked expression, I coldly said, "Go dream on." As I turned to leave, I heard her biting back her words in a rage. "You will pay for this." I turned the corner, leaning against the wall, gasping for breath, my palms covered in cold sweat. Though I appeared calm, the memories of her mental control over me still haunted me. I kept telling myself I had been reborn. That Seal was now nothing more than a penniless student, unable to stir up any trouble. But the unease lingered until I saw that jaw-dropping sculpture. The Song of the Despairer had once become a sensation in the art world after its debut in my past life, with its auction price reaching astronomical heights. The creator, a previously unknown sculptor who had been suppressed by his company for 10 years, had infused the piece with pain and struggle, leaving many viewers in tears. Now, however, the piece bore Seal's name. I cursed her for her shamelessness. The worst part was, I was the only one who knew her true face. According to the original timeline, the creator of the sculpture was only just beginning to conceive the piece at this point, and the clay model hadn't even been started. She probably thought that she had come up with the idea herself, alongside Seal. As expected, this sculpture became famous, with collectors pouring in from all over. Seal transformed into the center of attention in the academy. Thanks to this sculpture, she had completely escaped financial hardship. She no longer had to worry about tuition or go hungry. Though I despised her actions, I was powerless without evidence, forced to watch as this small-minded person flourished. 2 weeks later, we crossed paths again. She was outside the male dormitory, carving an ice sculpture of Blaze's likeness. Under the streetlight, Seal wore a white dress, her gaze arrogantly disdainful. A crowd of admirers surrounded her, and the boys were all blushing and excited. After finishing the sculpture, Seal stood up and looked at the crowd, speaking with affection. "Blaze, will you be my boyfriend?" Her burning gaze locked onto Blaze, and the crowd erupted in cheers. I stood at my dorm window, watching Blaze with red eyes, his voice trembling. Of course. The two embraced. Seal noticed my gaze and, holding Blaze, looked up with a smug smile, raising an eyebrow. I sneered, closing the curtains. Seal and Blaze's relationship flourished. They completed artistic performances on the field at midnight, where she sculpted and he painted, running from security guards across campus. They ignored school rules, accepting outside commercial collaborations, and became internet celebrities, with fans calling them the enviable couple of the century. They kissed in front of sculptures symbolizing artistic dreams and took photos. Blaze painted, while Seal sculpted beside him. None of this concerned me. After my rebirth, I cherished every moment, intoxicated by the joy of seeing light again. I started preparing for the World Art Exhibition a year in advance, pouring my creative energy into the studio until my wrists ached, feeling fulfilled and happy. Seal, Blaze, your actions have severely damaged the school's reputation. After a faculty meeting, we have decided to issue a warning. I heard their names while passing by the office and suddenly felt a sense of detachment. I lightly knocked on the door, the professor's expressions off, and when he saw me, I handed over the document. "Professor, here's the list you asked for." The professor took it and looked at Blaze. "You're in the same major as Arden, and his skills are already on par with the seasoned artists in the studio. Meanwhile, you're always busy with romance. Maybe you should learn a thing or two from Arden. In our field, romance alone isn't enough. Talent is what truly matters." Blaze forced a smile, but his gaze toward me was filled with resentment. "All right. About your disciplinary action. The academy will sigh." "Hold on." Seal interrupted, smiling as she said, "Professor, why don't you take a look at this before deciding?" She handed over a design draft. The professor looked at it, growing increasingly pleased. while I furrowed my brows. She met my gaze with calm composure, a smug smile playing at the corners of her lips. Teacher. As an expert in the field, I'm sure you don't need me to elaborate on the value of this piece. Seal gently held Blaze's hand. I haven't published it yet, but I can add the school's name to it. I'm sure you wouldn't want to see a promising new artist get penalized. Right? The professor sighed. Placing the designed raft on the table, he spoke. Go back for now. I'll discuss it with the school and let you know the response later. Thank you for your efforts. Teacher. Seal gave a slight nod and, with Blaze in tow, left the office. As they signaled the professor, I immediately followed them out. Stop, Seal. The moment Blaze saw me, he positioned himself protectively in front of Seal, snarling. Get lost. She's mine now. I glared at Seal, my eyes burning with fury. Seal gently stroked Blaze's hair. Don't worry. Go ahead first. She leaned in and whispered in Blaze's ear. Remember your desire to participate in the exhibition? Wait for my good news. Blaze teasingly pinched her waist. Just stay away from that guy. Understood. My little cutie. Once Blaze walked away, I forced back my discomfort and spoke. Are you still stealing others' works? That sculpture was Alara's. The one she made to pay for her life-saving treatment. How could you do this? Seal sneered. What's wrong with that? Alara won't finish the sculpture for another 6 months. By then, her husband will be in the late stages of his illness. What good will the sculpture be then? It's better for me to make full use of it and add a beautiful line to my resume. Alara is your lifesaver. She brought you from the remote countryside to here. Seal's anger flared. By selling the sculpture, I'll naturally lend her the money for treatment. Isn't that helping her? I stood frozen, speechless. Seal's words and actions shattered my understanding once again. You're shameless. Living off stolen works will eventually lead to ruin. Sooner or later, someone will expose your true nature. Seal raised her chin arrogantly. That'll be years from now. When the time comes, I'll just admit to creative exhaustion and gracefully exit. People will only remember the brilliant years of the genius artist Seal. Once I succeed, who will care about those idle rumors? She took a step closer, her eyes full of resentment. Regret it yet? Arden? I gave you a chance when I first came back, but you didn't appreciate it. Now, I'm the celebrated artist, and you're just a pitiful, discarded fool. You and your foolish old father will both pay the price for this. Father? What does this have to do with him? I asked, confused. Seal's eyes flashed with malice. She said coldly. Do you know why I was reborn later than you? After your death, I hid for an entire year. All because of your damn father. I could have inherited the Arden family fortune as his wife. But he had already prepared for it. The day your death was announced, he had his lawyer donate all the shares. Not only that, but he also handed over the evidence of Blaze causing your blindness to the police. Blaze was disgraced, and when he was caught, he panicked and ran into traffic, getting hit by a truck and dying on the spot. Her voice grew more agitated. Your father had already sent people to investigate your death, trying to put me behind bars. That caused me to flee for over a year. A useless cripple in a hospital bed should have just waited to die in a nursing home. Why did he have to come out and cause trouble? I was stunned. Struck like lightning. It turned out that before my father had fallen ill, he had already foreseen everything. Even at the end, he had made arrangements for me. Tears welled up in my eyes. Arden. The fact that I've been reborn means that destiny is on my side. The Arden family owes me and Blaze. And we will make you pay it back double. I slowly lifted my gaze, my eyes bloodshot, and whispered. Yes. What's owed must be repaid. You've participated in the International Art Exhibition preliminaries. And I'm sure you still remember the composition of that award-winning piece. Don't you? Seal said as if it were natural. Recreate it and give it to Blaze. That gold medal is his. I clenched my fists and forced a bitter smile. Fine. Seal was clearly pleased with my compliance. Admit it. Arden. No matter how many times you're reborn, you'll never escape your fate of loving me. Be a good boy, and I might reconsider accepting you. As I watched Seal walk away, her arrogance evident, my gaze gradually turned to ice. With 3 months left until the international exhibition preliminaries, Blaze, following Seal's instructions, came to my studio every day. I patiently guided him in his work. Heh. So Arden is nothing special after all. Blaze sneered. All that effort spent on the composition. And in the end, it'll just be handed over. It seemed that Seal had told him this was my work. Yeah. Just afraid you can't handle such a masterpiece. Don't worry about me. I'll definitely paint something even better. Blaze was full of confidence, unaware of how his arrogance would be tested during the preliminary rounds. While we were preparing intensively, Seal wasn't idle either. She secretly signed up for a little-known sculpture competition. Though this art competition was under the radar, it unexpectedly caught the attention of international art masters. Later, several of the participants became prominent figures in the art world. Seal, with a bit of fame from her previous works, brought attention to this competition, which elevated its visibility. Using the pieces she had covertly copied, she easily claimed first place. The masters watching the event clearly took note of her performance. But what surprised everyone was that, at the awards ceremony, it wasn't one of the masters who handed Seal her award. When the young face appeared on the screen, I was taken aback. On the live broadcast, Seal's eyes flashed with displeasure, but she held her anger in check due to the occasion. She stared at the trophy in her hands, her greed contrasting sharply with the calm demeanor of the person beside her. The woman looked at Seal and gently spoke. Every piece you've created is impressive. May I ask you a question? Seal didn't look up from her trophy and spoke stiffly. Just ask. The woman didn't seem offended by her rudeness. She maintained her graceful posture. I'm curious, why did your artistic style change so drastically? Your first original work was full of life and hope, but your second piece is dark and somber. In just half a month, what caused this transformation in your art? Seal's expression froze instantly, and a flash of panic crossed her eyes. The reporter's fame often conceals many unspeakable things, and Seal's rude behavior was quickly interpreted as the unique personality of an artist. After this competition, Seal rapidly rose to fame, becoming a highly sought-after newcomer in the art world. She spent her days attending high-end parties and socializing with the elite, and no longer could be seen working in the art studio. In theory, Hidlit Chu, the champion of the competition, should have become the closed-door disciple of the master. But in this life, that master had only appeared in the promotional material and had not been seen since. This change, though suspicious, I attributed to the chain reaction caused by my rebirth, not thinking too deeply about it. After gaining fame, Seal quickly climbed the social ladder, associating with some well-known local figures. The first thing she did was secretly target my father's company. My father had been so busy lately that he rarely had time for a proper meal at home. His phone rang. It was Seal calling. Remember, this is just a reminder. Teach Blaze well. Understand? I tightly gripped the phone, my voice hoarse. Understood. After teaching Blaze the techniques needed for the art exhibition, he never came back to the studio. Only when the submission deadline was near did he hurriedly practice a few times. The day of the International Art Exhibition selection soon arrived. Blaze entered the venue wearing a brand new custom suit, full of confidence. The selection process was live-streamed, and all the participants could observe it in real time, with every step being recorded by cameras. The first few contestants were of equal skill, and the judges nodded in acknowledgement. Blaze stood behind me and mockingly whispered, "What are you here for? Embarrassing yourself?" I smiled faintly, just waiting for Blaze to make a fool of me. When the judges announced my name, I ignored Blaze's mockery and walked to the easel. I immersed myself in the creation, feeling as if I had returned to countless practice nights. Under the spotlight, I held my beloved paintbrush and poured all my passion into it. When I put down the brush, I breathed lightly. The room fell silent, and only my breathing echoed. Suddenly, someone began to clap, and the applause quickly grew into a wave. I smiled and bowed to the audience. As I was leaving, my classmates gathered around me. It was amazing. Everyone was mesmerized, and the judges kept nodding. "You've got this. Thank you. I calmly accepted the praise. Because no one knew better than me how much sweat I had put into this moment. I would continue to work hard and live up to this applause and praise. Pretentious. Blaze sneered from the side. When it was his turn to perform, he did show some talent. Though he usually neglected practice, his innate talent allowed him to produce a piece that, while plain, was not a total failure. Unfortunately, heading for fight, this painting was too conventional and failed to live up to my expectations of him. His innovative composition earned him some applause, though he proudly walked off the stage, unaware that a senior judge was frowning. As he passed by me, he deliberately bumped into me. Sorry, senior. I guess I stole the spotlight. I gave him a meaningful look, but said nothing. He became uneasy under my gaze, snorted, and walked away. I turned my attention to the judge's table, where the frowning judge was quietly conversing with his colleagues, their eyes occasionally resting on Blaze. Confident Blaze suddenly felt uneasy, his fingers subconsciously brushing over his paintbrush. The judging panel was supposed to disband after the artwork display, but unexpectedly, they asked all participants to stay. The doors to the venue were closed, and several committee members walked in with serious expressions. The contestants whispered among themselves, speculating what was going on, fearing they might be dragged into some trouble. I sat calmly in the corner, while Blaze clearly appeared restless. He sneaked over to me, lowering his voice to ask, "Arden, what dirty tricks are you pulling behind my back?" I raised the corner of my mouth slightly. "Blaze, my friend. A clean person has nothing to worry about. No need to panic." Blaze gritted his teeth and threatened, "If you dare mess with me, Seal will never let you get away with it." I looked at him coldly and ignored his words. The judges gathered around a computer, carefully comparing the details of the submitted works. Their expressions grew more and more solemn, and several judges frequently shot angry glances at Blaze. Blaze tried to seek help from Seal, but remembered his phone had been confiscated, and he had no way to contact the outside world. 30 minutes later, the committee announced the cancellation of Blaze's participation. "Why are you doing this?" Blaze was enraged. His handsome face twisted in anger. The committee representative remained unfazed and continued to read, in addition to disqualifying Blaze. "He will be banned from participating in any art-related events or exhibitions for the next 5 years. Furthermore, due to suspected theft of an unpublished creative theme, we have contacted the authorities. Blaze, please cooperate with the investigation." This statement caused an uproar in the room. Blaze was completely panicked. His eyes red as he desperately defended himself. "I didn't cheat." Suddenly, he turned to me. "I get it now. It's you behind all this." He grabbed my collar and screamed hysterically. "This guy. The idea for this painting was all taught to me by him. Arrest him." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Junior, are you in such a hurry? This is the first time I've seen your work today. Besides, everyone knows we don't get along. If I had such a great idea, why would I teach it to you? You vile scoundrel. Did you plan this all along?" I silently endured his pushing, my eyes red. "Junior, you can hate me all you want. It's the senior's fault. But please calm down and don't worry the others." Blaze, like a cornered beast, lunged at me. Security immediately subdued him. The surrounding classmates quickly helped me up, whispering words of comfort. I wiped my tears and looked at Blaze. A faint trace of disdain in my gaze. That look completely enraged him, and he struggled and roared in fury. I hid behind the crowd, pretending to be frightened, watching him lose control. Just like in my past life, it was the same in this one. Blaze always stood above me, and now, I would return everything he had done to me. Doubly, Blaze insisted that I had leaked the creative theme, so the committee had no choice but to investigate me. The result, of course, was nothing. This was all thanks to Seal's overzealous actions. To protect Blaze's reputation, she had rented a private studio for him to practice, and had destroyed all surveillance records. She thought she was preventing me from producing evidence proving Blaze had copied my idea, stealing his honor. Little did she know, This had actually become my best shield. After all, I had no involvement in the theme of the competition. But Blaze and Seal were notorious for their arrogance at the academy. What rules had they not broken? Spying on the judges' creative themes was a daily routine for them. Moreover, the ongoing feud between Blaze, Seal, and me had been the top headline on the campus forum for days. A little investigation by the organizing committee would easily reveal that we were sworn enemies. This only served to show that Blaze had acted recklessly, making false accusations in desperation. And as for me, I was still the poor soul who was always targeted. At this point, Blaze was expelled and would face legal consequences. Arden, you're really devious. Seal blocked my path at the street corner, her eyes bloodshot, clearly overwhelmed by the situation with Blaze. I smiled lightly and said, I'm just doing things your way. Seal trembled with anger. I asked you to help Blaze win the gold medal. And this is how you help? I looked at her with amusement. Aren't you two experts in getting things without working for them? Looks like you've messed up this time. And now you're not happy? Arden. You wait. Seal stormed off in fury. I took out my phone and dialed a number. The plan can begin now. From that day on, Seal seemed to have gone mad. She started frequenting upscale clubs and aggressively networking with people in power. Finally, at a business cocktail party, she latched onto a successful entrepreneur. This entrepreneur was worth billions, with connections all over the business world. With him as her connection, Seal managed to infiltrate some elite circles. It was said that their favorite pastime was to gather at a private club of these wealthy men. When she felt she had gotten close enough to the entrepreneur, she cautiously brought up the idea, asking him to help Blaze with this matter. To her surprise, the man erupted in anger, chastising her for not knowing her place and not understanding her own status, daring to mention that little pretty boy in front of him. Seal turned pale, apologizing repeatedly. Every time I thought about this, I couldn't help but chuckle. As for why I knew all this? Because that entrepreneur was my uncle. Kid, how much longer do we have to keep playing this charade? That little girl really irritates me. Her face practically screams with those dark thoughts. It's so annoying. My uncle was lounging on the sofa, grumbling. I lowered my head, remaining silent. It was true. Seal never could hide her intentions. But unfortunately, in my previous life, I was too blind to see it. Just bear with it a bit longer. My uncle sighed and gently tapped my brow. I hadn't mentioned this matter to my father. When my parents were in love, my father was poor, and my grandfather vehemently opposed the marriage. Yet, my mother insisted and married him. In a fit of anger, my grandfather said harsh words, and my mother, stubborn as ever, cut off ties with him. After I was born, my mother's health deteriorated, and she realized many things, regretting her initial hard stance. Unfortunately, hadn't fulfilled my desire. Just when they had made peace, she passed away. After that, my father and I lost contact with my grandfather's side of the family. So in my previous life, Seal knew nothing about my maternal family. When I heard Seal mention my father's backup plan after my death, I suspected that my father had sought help from my grandfather. By then, my father was bedridden, and even with all his influence, he couldn't have foreseen things so far ahead. The only possible explanation was that my grandfather had intervened. In this life, I often visited my grandfather. Though he complained, he always personally prepared my favorite snacks and accompanied me for tea and chess games. My uncle doted on me greatly, his eyes reddening every time we met. I later tentatively asked my father about it, and he acknowledged it, advising me to visit my grandfather and his family often. Seeing that my uncle could do nothing about the situation, Seal turned her attention elsewhere. In just 1 month, she created 10 pieces that shocked the sculpture world, quickly rising to fame and being hailed as a new star in the art world. When I saw this news, I cursed her stupidity, then immediately dialed a number. We can begin the operation now. 3 days later, just when Seal was basking in the limelight, a person claiming to be the original creator of her sculptures released a video. The video detailed their creative process, from initial concept to completion, and all the evidence showed that her latest sculptures were identical to Seal's. It would have been one thing if only one person came forward, but over 10 creators spoke out at once. And Seal quickly became the focus of public scrutiny. Reporters flocked to interview and report on the case. Seal hurriedly engaged in damage control, tearfully saying, "I understand that outstanding people will always be envied, but I didn't expect it to go this far. Every sculpture has been created with my heart and soul. If I truly plagiarized, I wouldn't need your accusations. I'd face the law myself." The internet exploded with debates. At this point, the video creator delivered the fatal blow. "I come from a poor family and couldn't afford high-end materials. So there's a minor flaw in my work that only experts can spot. But Seal's sculpture is exactly the same, flaw and all." Seal tried to argue, but she was completely crushed by one person. That person was an elegant female professor, seen in the video sitting next to her blind husband. She showed a sculpture model. "This was created 6 months ago, when my husband went blind. The style was too gloomy, so I never published it. But a few months ago, I saw it at an exhibition, and the author was my own student." Alara's eyes were filled with pain as she looked through the screen, questioning Seal. "The base of the sculpture has the hidden nickname of my husband. If this is truly your work, can you explain this detail?" The argument escalated, and a netizen commented, "Seal's works have such a drastic change in style. No sculptor could possibly change their creative direction so drastically in such a short time and produce so many pieces. Unless she's the reincarnation of Rodin." This comment, though initially unnoticed, quickly went viral after being shared by a heavyweight figure in the art world. That heavyweight turned out to be someone I knew well. It was the woman who had questioned Seal at the competition. Later, I learned that she was a world-renowned art master and also the younger sister of that revered world-class artist. She was low-key, recently returned to the country, and rarely appeared in the public eye. With the endorsement of such an authoritative figure, people began to think more rationally. Some bloggers even produced detailed analysis videos of the sculptures, exposing the fakes one by one. In the end, Seal was left speechless. On the other side of the screen, I quietly watched it all unfold, unperturbed. A message arrived on my phone: "Boss, everything is taken care of." I immediately transferred the final payment. That's right. This whole drama was orchestrated by me. I had contacted the original creators that Seal had plagiarized, verifying their creative process. When I met them, several had already fallen into a terrifying state of self-doubt after seeing Seal's released works. They initially thought the beginnings were similar, but later realized that as they continued their own creations, their works completely overlapped with Seal's sculptures. They began to despise themselves, feeling unworthy of being sculptors, even contemplating suicide. And the one who caused all this pain was enjoying their hard work, comfortably reaping the fruits of ill-gotten gains. What made me most relieved was meeting Alara. When I donated to her husband's cause, I learned that he had created a sculpture. In the corner of the studio stood an unfinished marble statue, every chisel stroke filled with pain. Alara had started this sculpture when her husband first went blind. In her past life, she was unwilling to let such a sorrowful piece of work be exhibited, believing that as long as the statue remained unseen, her husband might regain his sight. But sadly, the treatment costs drained them, and Alara was forced to send the sculpture for auction. No one knew of this in the past life. This was what led Seal into a huge trap. Plagiarizing a mentor's work is one of the most unforgivable offenses in the art world. With public pressure mounting, Seal fell from the pedestal into the abyss. She was completely finished. The last time I saw Seal was at a KTV under my grandfather's name. My uncle was saying that he would give me this store as a birthday gift when suddenly there was a commotion from the neighboring private room. A man and a woman staggered out of the room. The man's clothes were disheveled, and the woman's face was covered in blood. "Seal, you bitch. You made me, you made me. A grown man. Go accompany that disgusting old man." Blaze, wearing a wrinkled suit, was holding a bloodied wine bottle shard. His face twisted in rage as he leaned against the wall, glaring at Seal. Seal was clutching her right hand, the wound so deep the bone was visible, and it seemed she would never be able to hold a sculpting knife again. I gestured for security to clear the area and learned the whole story. Blaze had been locked up for a year because of the earlier incident. After being released, Seal found him and introduced him to a wealthy businessman. However, the businessman was almost 70, and Blaze couldn't accept it. In a fit of rage, he grabbed a wine bottle and injured Seal. Hearing this, I stepped back. Little Wang, this needs to be reported to the police. We're a legitimate entertainment establishment, and this kind of incident is unacceptable. It will tarnish our reputation. It was then that Seal recognized that the boss was me. She staggered toward me, but was stopped by security. You vile man. It's all your fault. Why wouldn't you just let me live out the rest of my life peacefully? I grabbed her chin, applying slight pressure, causing her jaw to dislocate. Leaning close to her ear, I sneered, Arden, am never a good person. I repay grudges and seek justice for wrongs. Did you really think you could rise to fame just by plagiarizing a few works? If you didn't have a capital backer, and if I hadn't allowed it, you wouldn't even have the chance to exhibit your art. I wanted to raise you to the heavens, and then watch you fall into the abyss. Only then can it even begin to compare to a fraction of the pain I once felt. Fool. You've been walking the path I designed for you from the very beginning, first to the peak, then to destruction. Seal's eyes widened, and she let out a weak, powerless scream. I disgustedly wiped my hands and ordered them to be escorted out. Seal had said one thing right, her rebirth was something even heaven couldn't bear to watch. If Seal, without any memory of her past life, had to endure the punishment now, she might still think she was innocent. But now, it was better she would carry the memories of both lives, living forever in regret. By the way, her case of plagiarism was soon judged, and the sentence was harsh enough for her to spend a long time in prison. As for me, I successfully entered an internationally renowned gallery and became the chief artist 2 years later, standing on the world stage. A world without evil people is truly wonderful. I traveled every corner of the world with my family under the sunshine,